Hi, and welcome to Reed's Audio Reading. I'm Reed, and I hope you enjoy my channel. Today I'll be reading The Accessory Guide to Hell, 2nd edition, specifically Chapter 6 and the Appendix. This accessory was written by Chris Pramas. Chapter 6 The Diabolic Campaign. After reading about the inhospitable climate, the bloodthirsty denizens, and the scheming nobility of hell, a DM may wonder why he'd ever want to use Bator in his campaign. This is a fair question. If PCs were sensible, they'd never go anywhere near hell. As we all know, however, PCs are rarely sensible. They want to fight tougher opponents, grab more glory, and gain levels at the faster rate. They also can't seem to resist the allure of going to hell. Thus, a DM must decide how he wants his PCs to interact with the infernal. Going to hell. Many players think of hell as an ultimate dungeon, 9 layers of nastiness, each one worse than the one before. While there's no denying the appeal of fighting the good fight in the depths of the pit, treating an expedition to hell like any other dungeon crawl will kill any adventuring party and quickly. Hell cannot be cleared 1 level at a time. It is not a simple matter to head back to town for supplies and healing. Adventuring in hell is a serious and dangerous endeavor that requires preparation by the DM and the players. The DM needs to control the conditions under which the PCs go to hell, and the characters must act intelligently in the most hostile of environments if they are to survive. Before sending an adventuring party to Bator, the DM must answer 3 key questions. First, how are the characters getting to hell? They could boat down the river Styx, travel through a gate from Sigil or another plane, or use a magical item such as the Amulet of the Plains. Second, how will they survive in the harsh environments of hell? Characters without magical protection who travel to layers such as Plethagos or Cania will simply die. DMs need to ensure that PCs have the right tools for the job, most likely protective spells and magical items. Last, how will the PCs escape from hell? Many gates are one-way portals, and the Styx only travels to other of the lower planes. While PCs can simply wander through hell looking for an ingress, it's best if at least the DM knows how they will eventually escape. Once these questions have been considered, it's time to plan the trip. 3 modules for going to hell are introduced in the following section. DMs can choose one of these or create future scenarios based on this information. In and out. The simplest way to use hell is as a setting for a single adventure of limited duration. In this model, the PCs are sent to hell on a specific mission. They must go to one or more locations, complete the mission, and then get out before they are detected and destroyed. The advantage to this scenario is that it requires limited preparation on the part of the DM, who only needs to detail those parts of hell he knows the PCs are going to. Monty Cook's A Paladin in Hell TSR product is an excellent example of this kind of adventure. The challenge of using hell in a one-shot adventure is showcasing what's exciting about the pit without overwhelming the PCs. An adventure in which the PCs only fight lemurs and nuparibos is sure to keep the PCs alive, but is immensely forgettable. On the other hand, a confrontation with Asmodeus in the depths of the pit is not an encounter the PCs can hope to win. The trick is to construct an adventure that features classic elements of hell, such as the City of Dis or the Pit of Flame, but does not spell instant doom for the PCs. Something to remember is that even one-shots have consequences. If the PCs zip into hell, ruin the centuries-old plan of a Bazitsu noble, and then go home, they may feel like the adventure is over and they have won. But devils live for an awful long time, and they are likely to take revenge on their enemies. The revenge is often more effective if the devil waits a few years before coming back to haunt the PCs. For the characters, the trip to hell was a glorious episode in times gone by, while for the devil, only a short time has passed. The PCs may be surprised when a long forgotten enemy wreaks havoc in their lives. The Big, Big City. The city setting is a staple of fantasy literature and gaming From Labor's Lenkmar to Gygax's Greyhawk to Greenwood's Waterdeep, the fantasy city provides a classic model. At first glance, Hell may not seem an appropriate venue for a city campaign. However, Hell features several cities that could be used as the center of an unusual urban campaign. The city of Dis is perhaps the best option, since it has many neighborhoods friendly to mortals. Jangling Hitter is another choice, but it is recommended only for powerful characters. A DM setting up a Diabolic City campaign should lay down some guidelines during character creation. It takes a special breed to survive in a harsh environment of hell, and certain types of PCs simply don't fit. The most flagrant violators is the Paladin, who would quickly be located and eliminated by the local devils. Clerics of lawful good deities, especially those with a zeal for crusading, are also asking for trouble. Rangers are likely to be out of their element in the urban game. Rogues, on the other hand, are entirely in their element, and they can really thrive in an intrigue laden setting. The DM should also consider what the PCs will be doing in the city. Unless they are natives, the characters probably came to Hell for a reason. Does the group have a common goal, and does each member have an individual reason for living in Hell? Does the DM want to run adventures with lots of politics and intrigue, or take a more combat oriented approach? The PCs could be set up as a vigilante group operating in secret, or as agents of powers from the upper planes. Or, perhaps, they've been tricked into working for a powerful devil, and their only chance of escape lies in fulfilling the terms of the contract. Since most of the adventures are going to revolve around the city, it's a good idea to make a rough map before the campaign begins. This map can be added to or refined as the game progresses, so it isn't necessary to get bogged down in details just yet. An important fact to know about cities in Hell is that they are huge. Since each layer is infinite, cities can expand and expand. Urban sprawls hundreds of miles wide are not uncommon. Devils who can teleport effortlessly have no problem traveling around such cities. PCs will need to figure out their own alternatives. Since the cities are controlled by powerful Bazitsu nobles, if not lords themselves, detailing the political situation of the city is a must. Who controls the city and its resources, and what is the individual's or group's agenda? Are rival nobles or political factions present? If so, how do they relate with other nobles? Is the intrigue centered around a court, such as that of Despater in the Iron Tower? What members of the court are potential friends and enemies of the PCs? Last, try to impress on the players that living in hell is different from living in an average city. As mortals, the characters are in the middle of a dangerous situation. If they cross the wrong devil, they can be killed at any time. They'll have to learn to act more subtle and choose their fights carefully. PCs convinced of their own invulnerability won't last long. Stranded. DMs who want to run an extended campaign set in hell can set up a standard in and out scenario and then ensure that instead of getting out, the PCs are stranded in hell at the end of the adventure. This twist of fate is easy enough to account for. The gate they were to use is destroyed, the key was stolen, and so forth. And it's fun to see the expressions on the faces of the players when they realize that their characters are stuck in hell. Although the players may not be thrilled by this turn of events, this model is an excellent one for campaign purposes. The PCs have an indisputable reason to stay together, where in hell. They are motivated to work together for a common goal. We must escape. And they must continue to travel until they find an exit. Damn, no way out here either. Each adventure is akin to a TV episode. Think Land of the Lost, for example. The PCs travel to a new location, get embroiled in some plot or other, and then get pointed in the direction of next week's adventure. The escape from hell goal is always present, but will often take backseat to the adventure. A stranded campaign can feature a variety of settings and personalities. One adventure may take place on Stygia, the next on Cania, or the DM can pick one layer and run with it. Since each layer is infinitely large, new locations can always be added. It's easy to introduce reoccurring characters, especially villains, who can provide a sense of continuity and help tie together the larger story. A Bazetsu noble charged with tracking down and eliminating the PCs would make a great reoccurring villain, as would an obsessed Oceloth who views the characters as a threat to the laws of Bator. This campaign model has built in closure. When a DM wants to end the story, or at least this chapter of it, he can finally let the PCs escape. This route may take them back to their home world or out among the planes. Either way, the players are unlikely to forget their characters' time in hell. Safe havens. Player characters in hell are in for a rough time. The environment is unforgiving, and untrustworthy souls are rarer than plain talking oracles. Adventuring in hell for any length of time is sure to deplete any party. Often, there isn't time to stop to heal and regain spells. Eventually, though, the PCs are going to need a chance to lick their wounds and plan their next move. This is what safe havens are for. Safe, of course, is a relative term. In hell, it means not likely to kill you immediately. Layers such as Phlegethos and Kania are never safe, unless the party has magical protection. The primary purpose of a safe haven is to provide the PCs with a place where they can hole up in relative peace. If the haven also is a place to buy provisions and equipment, so much the better, though access to such items is extremely limited in hell. Below are described two example safe havens, one within hell and one in the Outlands. Ribcage. Named for the mountains that curve over it, Ribcage is one of that so-called gate towns of the Outlands. As the plane of true neutrality, the Outlands is the center of the Great Ring and touches all the outer planes. The gate town lies on the border of the Outlands and are the most obvious means to gain access to the planes beyond. Ribcage is the latest gate town to Bator, the previous town having been gobbled up by Bator's relentless advance. Although Ribcage can be a harsh town, it provides the essential services required to qualify as a safe haven. It is conveniently located near Hill, is well ordered and maintained, and has inns and shops aplenty. It's also the best place to find guides willing to take travelers into Hell, though many of them are shady folks looking for a quick profit from clueless travelers. All that said, Ribcage isn't an especially pleasant place either. It is ruled by Lord Quintil Barakas, Baron of the Great Pass. Parakas is a greedy and corrupt fellow who controls the town with the aid of 5 senators, at least 3 of whom are always in his pocket. Parakas has many troops who patrol the streets and are known for their needless brutality and trumped up charges. PCs spending any time here are advised to lie low and take care of business. The militia will use any excuse to come after the PCs, and criminals in Ribcage tend to have short lifespans. The biggest problem with using Ribcage as a safe haven is that it is not in Hell proper. In order to take advantage of the place, PCs need to leave Hell and then re enter later. Since Lord Parakas controls the gate to Bator, re entering may entail dealing with the rather vile man. There's also the issue of convenience. For a party far away in Stygia, Ribcage isn't an option as a haven. Freetown. Freetown is a ramshackle collection of makeshift buildings sheltered in the mountains of Minoris. It was founded by a group of escaped slaves, most of whom were petitioners. Since then, the town has grown fitfully as other ex-slaves have found refuge there. The inhabitants are Storylaw who do their best to eke out a living in the harsh environment of Minoris. The citizens of Freetown live in constant fear of attack. The Hamatula are quite active on Minoris, and one of their duties is to round up escaped slaves. To combat Bizitsu attacks, Freetown has organized a militia. The commander, Rogal the Defender, is a seasoned fighter who is doing his best to whip his troops into shape. Weapons and armor are scarce, however, most of these are scavenged from slain enemies. Despite its poor equipment, the militia has beaten off several attacks already. Rogal, the defender, works in conjunction with Wycliffe, the town's mayor. Wycliffe was elected when the town was founded and has taken care of his people faithfully ever since. He does his best to ensure Freetown's safety, but he knows the town is a temporary solution. He's been trying to organize a mass escape from hell, but has had no luck finding a way out. PCs on Minoris would be welcome in Freetown, especially if they could donate supplies or help in the town's defense. The city has little to offer, but does provide a convenient bolt hole. The devils don't seem concerned by the continued existence of Freetown. Perhaps because they've wiped out hundreds of settlements just like it over the years, it's just a matter of time before a Bazetsu strike force reduces this town to rubble. Spellcasters in Hell. The outer planes are unimaginably vast, and traveling among them is far different from taking a horse to the next town. This is particularly true for spellcasters, whose magic is affected drastically. Perhaps the most important fact to keep in mind is that devils and other natives of hell are not considered extra dimensional on their home plane. This means that spells such as banishment, binding, dispel, evil, holy word, and protection from evil don't work against devils in hell. In the case of protection from evil, only the extraplanar creature ward fails to function. In addition, spells that read the minds of their targets are fraught with peril. ESP and similar forms of magic destroy the minds of their users in hell, since the workings of a devil's minds are too terrible for a mortal to grapple with. Whenever someone tries to read the mind of a devil, even one in human form, the mind reader must make a saving throw versus death magic. Success indicates that the caster is merely feeble minded for 2d6 hours and can relate fragments of useful information when he recovers. Failure means the caster suffers from a form of madness, agreed upon by the player and the DM, and ideally related to the type of devil scanned, until treated with heal, restoration, limited wish, or wish. The character can still cast spells, but loses spell levels based on the type of devil whose mind was read. Least Bazetsu cost the caster 1 spell level. Lesser Bazetsu burn out 2 spell levels, 1 second level spell, or 2 first level spells. A greater Bazetsu costs 3 spell levels. A Bazetsu noble burns 4, and the terrible mind of Asmodeus costs the caster 8 spell levels, 1/8 level spell, or any combination of other spell levels that adds up to 8. Scarring of the caster's psyche means that only half of those levels, round up, can be gained through treatment. The rest are permanently lost unless the DM allows a wish to recover some or all of them. Spells such as Detect Evil are particularly worthless in Hell because the spell identifies virtually everything as evil. However, PCs do have one advantage. As natives of the prime material plane, they are not subjected to planar affecting spells even when off their home plane. Thus, if a devil casts protection from good, a character is not held at bay, but he does suffer the attack roll penalty. A prime material native cannot be banished or sent home by a holy word. Wizard magic. Wizards in hell primarily need to worry about those spells that deal with the astral or ethereal plane. Only Avernus, the first layer, touches the astral plane, and no layer of hell touches the ethereal plane. The following spells do not function on Avernus: Conjure Elemental Kin, Deep Pockets, Demi Shadow Magic, Demi Shadow Monster, Detect Phase, Dimension Blade, Distance Distortion, Energy Drain, Estate Transference, Etherealness, Invisible Stalker, Lehman's Secret Chest, Lorlovian's Shadowy Transformation, Major Creation, May's Minor Creation, Mordekainen's Magnificent Mansion, Phase Door, Rope Trick, Shades, Shadow Cat, Shadow Form, Shadow Magic, Shadow Monsters, Shadow Walk, Summon Shadow, Vanish. Note: wizards who are native to Hell can cast any of the above spells marked with an asterisk. The following spells do not function on layers 2 to 9 of Bator: Astral Spell, Conjure Elemental Kin, Deep Pockets, Demi Shadow Magic, Demi-Shadow Monster, Detect Phase, Dimension Blade, Distance Distortion, Duo Dimension, Energy Drain, Estate Transference, Eternalness, Find Familiar, Invisible Stalker, Lehman's Secret Chest, Lorlovian's Shadowy Transformation, Major Creation, Maze, Minor Creation, Mordekainen's Magnificent Mansion, Phase Door, Rope Trick, Shades, Shadow Cat, Shadow Form, Shadow Magic, Shadow Monsters, Shadow Walk, Summon Shadow, and Vanish. Although elemental summonings do not function, natives of Hell can call forth pseudo-elementals if they have the ability. Such spells create an elemental-like being from the very stuff of Hell. Thus, a Bazitsu wizard who casts Conjure Elemental in Hell calls forth a creature similar to one he intended, except the creature's alignment is lawful evil. Interestingly, despite the extraplanar distance between Hell and the negative energy plane, undead created in Bator retain their unliving condition and even their level draining powers as long as they remain in Hell. Scholars attribute this phenomenon to the metaphysical connection between undead and the nature of Hell. School modification. For a caster on any of the 9 layers of Hell, the following wizard schools are altered. Conjuration/summoning. In order to control a summoned creature, the caster must perform a special binding upon it. This entails a spellcraft proficiency check or an intelligence check at -5 to see if the caster makes the binding perfect. If the roll fails, the creature is not under the control of the caster and can do as it pleases. Divination. Although not entirely inaccurate, divinations in Hell carry a dark, gloomy tone. Usually, the future is forecast in the worst possible light. Furthermore, divinations draw attention to the caster, doubling the chance for a hostile encounter on the plane. Necromancy. Spells used to heal or grant life require a saving throw versus spell by the caster. Only if the saving throw succeeds does the spell succeed. Necromantic spells that bring pain and woe are cast as though the caster were one level higher. Wild magic. Wild mages operate as though they were one level lower per layer of Hell upon which the caster stands. So, in Minoris, the 3rd layer, 3 levels are lost in regards to the casting and memorizing of wild magic spells. A 1st to 3rd level wild mage can cast no spells there at all. Elemental. In Stygia and Cania, spells of cold and ice function with an enhanced power. Each such spell is cast as though the caster were one level higher. Likewise, spells of fire and heat are diminished and operate as though the caster were one level lower than his true level. These effects are reversed in Phlegethos. Cleric magic. The power of a priest diminishes the farther he travels from his god's realm and into the planes where the powers rule. For each plane separating the servants from his deity, the servant loses one level of spellcasting ability in terms of effective level and number of spells gained. The loss occurs immediately upon moving to a new plane. Spells lost can only be regained through rest and prayer, and only upon reaching a location where they can once again be cast. Hit points, Thaco, granted powers, and all other abilities of a cleric are unchanged. For the number of levels lost, see the following table. God's Home, Priest and Hell. Mount Celestia, 7 Heavens, -3. Bistopia, Twin Paradises, -4. Elysium, -5. Beast Lands, Happy Hunting Grounds, -6. Arbobia, Olympus, -7. Isgard, -6. Limbo, -5. Pandemonium, -4. Abyss, -3. Karkari, Tartaros, -2. Grey Waste, Hades, -1. Gehenna, 0. Bator, 9 Hells, 0. Archeron, 0. Mechanus, Nirvana, -1. Arcadia, -2. Prime Material Plane, -1. Outlands, 0. Astral Plane, 0. Ethereal Plane, -2. Any inner plane, -3. On the positive side, cleric magic is not restricted in the same way as wizard magic. There are no altercations or prohibitions regarding specific spells unless cast from a magical item, including scrolls. Magical items. As a general rule, magical items are affected by the planes in the same way and do the same degrees as similar spells. For instance, if a character takes a wand of fire to Stygia, its powers would be diminished in the same way that fire spells are. Clerical items and scrolls don't suffer the level loss of their owners, but they are subject to spell alterations by school as described for wizard magic. From the notes above on spells, the DM can extrapolate the effects on most magical items before the issue arises during gameplay. Magical items with bonuses, magical weapons and armor, items of protection, and so forth lose their enchanted quality as they move farther from the plane of origin. They lose their enchantment at the rate of 1 plus for each plane removed from the plane on which they were created. In Hell, 2 pluses are lost, so a sword plus 5 is only a sword plus 3 in Bator. A weapon reduced to plus 0 still registers to detect magic spells and generally remains sturdy and finely crafted. Items with additional powers, such as Sword of Dancing, lose all those powers if the item's bonus is reduced to plus 0 or less. For items with more than 1 plus, such as a sword plus 1, plus 4 versus reptiles, apply the penalty to the higher of the pluses to determine loss of the additional powers. Cursed items are no way affected by planar travel. Bazetsu Wizards. Devils have never lacked magical powers. Their very nature gives them access to an array of powers suited to their role in the cosmos. These abilities, which require neither study nor understanding, are known as innate magic. Devils use this magic the way other mortals use their hands and teeth, and probably with even less thought. The spellcasting power of the wizard, however, long eluded the brutal Bazetsu. Wizard spells acquired after years of study and memorization of esoteric techniques are known as learned magic. At first, few devils had the temperament to hunker down and study magic like a mortal. Devils have gleaned all they know about learned magic from mortal spellcasters. This knowledge has been acquired haphazardly over many years. Bazitsu wizards are still quite rare, and their existence is not widely known. They do, however, perform important functions in Hell, such as the manufacture of magical items and the support of Bazetsu armies in the Blood War. Eligibility. Any devil with an intelligence of 11 or higher is eligible to become a wizard. Since the study of magic is so unusual for devils, however, less than 5% of the talent pool actually studies magic. Like other wizards, diabolic spellcasters start at first level. Their maximum level of ability is equal to their hit dice. Ocelots, for example, can become 5th level wizards due to their 5 HD. Those of 8th level or higher run the risk of neglecting their physical prowess and have a 25% chance of receiving a -1 penalty to hit in combat. This test is taken upon achieving 8th level and is only checked once. Bazetsu wizards can be mages or any specialty wizard except a wild mage. They prefer the schools of alteration, invocation/evocation, necromancy, and illusion. Ocelots are also known for their penchant for divination magic, which aids their work greatly. No Bazetsu wizard need to worry about restrictions on their armor of weapons. They can always use whatever equipment they please. Of the Bazetsu, the Aminzu are the most likely to study magic. Kornagons, Hamatula, Ocelots, and Korchakons occasionally produce wizards, while Abishai, Barbazu, Lemurs, Nuparibos, and Spinagons never do. They simply lack the brain power. The best diabolical wizards are Pit Fiends and Gilligons. The Pit Fiends know no limit of magical ability and can continue to gain experience levels indefinitely. This is a truly frightening prospect when their longevity is considered. Gelugon wizards are more rare, but they gain an extra ice or cold related spell for each spell level gained. They have also researched several alternate versions of existing spells, freezing sphere rather than flaming sphere, for instance. The 4 types. There are 4 basic types of Bazetsu wizards. When generating such a spellcaster, either choose the type or role on the following table. 0 to 40, Distorter. 41 to 50, Unenlightened. 51 to 90, Normal. 91 to 100, Augmented. Distorted wizards can only learn magic at a terrible cost. These devils have had their magic resistance burned right out of them. Only by mirroring themselves can they prevent their magic resistance from blocking their ability to cast spells. Unenlightened wizards have only learned to cast spells by channeling energy normally spent on innate magic. Such wizards lose 1d6 of their spell like abilities. Normal wizards is something of a misnomer, since Bazitsu wizards are never really normal. The term indicates that these devils have become wizards without losing magic resistance or innate magic. Augmented wizards are those Bazitsu with real natural talent. They take to learned magic immediately and quickly gained a high degree of proficiency. Not only have they learned to cast spells without losing their magic resistance, they've learned how to alter their innate magic. They can replace any or all of their spell like powers with any other appropriate spell of a lower level. The key word here is appropriate. A Gelogon could replace its wall of ice with wall of fog, but could not replace its detect invisibility, which is always active, with wall of fog, because the latter spell can't always be active. Bazetsu priests. As strange as it may sound, a few devils are priests. They do not, however, receive their powers from hell. The Lords of Nine do not have the ability to grant spells, so Bazitsu wishing to pursue a career of the faith must turn to other powers of law and evil. But the Bazitsu lords do not want their loyal soldiers swearing allegiance to another power, even one that has a realm in hell. Bazitsu priests therefore play a dangerous game. Those who survive are both ambitious and clever and use their abilities to further both their god's agenda and their own. Bazitsu priests are specialty priests. They usually worship such gods as Set, Inanna, Duraga, and Braviak. Most of these priests are Ocelots and Hamatula. Those farther up the hierarchy must sever ties to other powers, so there are no Gulagan or Pit Fiend priests. Kornagon priests exist, but they are quite rare. Devils in combat. Devils, especially the more potent ones, have a bewildering array of powers to choose from. The DM, whose job is difficult enough to begin with, often has a hard time running devils during combat situations. It is tough to deal with multiple NPCs, educate the player's actions, and keep the pace up all the same time. Often, devils are not used to their full capacity, making players think that it would be easy to kill off some like Despater. What follows are some hints for the DM to show players how wrong they are. Rank has its privileges. The statistics of the Lords of the Nine in Chapter 5 may make them look challenging but not unbeatable. Remember, however, that these are Lords of Hell. They have power and position, and they do not wander dungeons by themselves. If you encounter the Warlord Bell, you had better believe he's going to have a half dozen pit fiend bodyguards with him, assuming he's not at the head of an army, that is. Help is a moment away. Most devils have the power to gate in other devils in time of need. This is a deadly ability if used correctly. When a fight begins, at least one devil should try to gate in allies each round. What looks like an easy fight can quickly turn into a debacle if the PCs are lazy. And again, rank is important. Greater devils and other higher ups can gate in some nasty opposition unless they are shut down quickly. The beauty of immunity. Devils are immune to a wide variety of harmful effects, such as fire and poison. They have learned to use these immunities to their advantage and have an endless variety of dirty tricks. A Minzu, for instance, can center fireballs right on top of themselves, devastating opponents but taking no damage. Similarly, devils often hide in inhospitable places, such as volcanoes or poisoned wells. Who would think to look for them there? Spells everywhere. Devils have a huge number of spell-like abilities to choose from. The basic list has some immensely useful powers such as suggestion and teleport without error. The latter ability especially allows devils an amazing number of tactical options. They often teleport out of combat one round only to reappear the next behind their foes. Other abilities, such as hold person and invisibility, can be equally deadly. It's usually a good idea to look over the special abilities of the devils that will be facing the PCs and giving some thought to how to best use them. Devils have an arsenal of spells, and they know how to use them to their maximum advantage. Appendix. Denizens of Hell. Our journey is almost at an end. However, the book would be incomplete without some basic information about the devils that populate hell. The Monsters Manual tome contains statistics for two Bazetsu, the Pit Fiend and the Abishai. Of the other 11 Bazetsu, 10 are in the Planescape Monsters Compendium Appendix, a most useful aid to DMs who want to feature Hell in their campaigns, and 1, Korokchan, can be found in the Planes of Law boxed set. For those without these resources, an abbreviated version of their statistics is given here. A new variant devil, the Mizikim, is detailed after the abbreviated statistics. All Bazetsu except for lemurs, nuparibos, and spinagons are able to perform the following magical abilities once per round at will: Advanced Illusion, Animate Dead, Charm Person, Infravision, Known Alignment, Always Active, Suggestion, and Teleport without error. Lemur, least Bazetsu. These mindless creatures are the lowliest denizens of Bator. They look like disfigured blobs of molten flesh and have no means of communication. They provide the grunts of the Bazetsu armies in the Blood War. Combat. Lemurs attack with their claws for 1d3 points of damage, and they rely on numbers to wear down opponents. Bazetsu commanders can order 1,000 or more lemurs to initiate a battle drive. Thanks to a special wedge formation and a relentless advance, the lemurs receive +2 to hit. Lemurs regenerate 1 hit point per round. Any piece of lemur, even burnt ash, regenerates until the creature is whole again. The only holy item, swords, water, and so forth, can permanently destroy them. Nuparibo, least Bazetsu. Nufaribos are similar to lemurs, but even more amorphous. Although slightly higher in station than lemurs, they are still horribly abused by the rest of the Bazetsu race. Combat. Nuparibos attack with 2 claws, but they are occasionally outfitted with weapons such as clubs. When ordered to do so, groups of 10 or more Nuparibos can cause fear if they all attack the same opponent. Nuparibos regenerate 1 hit point per round while on any of the lower planes. Any piece of Nuparibo, even burnt ash, regenerates until the creature is whole again. And only holy items, swords, water, and so forth, can permanently destroy them. Sprinagons, least Bazetsu. Sprinagons are small, gargoyle-like devils common throughout most of Hell. They serve as messengers, scouts, and recruiters for Bator's armies. Combat. Although they prefer to avoid combat, Sprinagons can attack with their small military forks, treat as javelins, and their clawed feet, 1d4 each. The bodies of Sprinagons are covered with small spikes. Up to 12 of these can shoot out missile weapons, 2 per round. Same statistics as darts. The spikes burst in flame in midair and ignite any flammable material they come into contact with. Alternatively, a spinagon can hurl itself at any opponent, hitting automatically with 1d4 spikes, 1d3 damage each, and the spikes are not used up. This replaces the spinagon's normal attacks for that round. Although they do not have the spell-like abilities common to other Bazetsu, Spinagons can use the following powers: affect normal fires, change self, command, produce flame, scare, stinking cloud, and gate, once per day, 1d3 Spinagons with a 35% chance of success. Korkachans, lesser Bazetsu. Korkachans are foul, beetle-like fiends that serve as torturers for the lords of hell. Each has wings under its shell, 4 arms, 2 legs, and a lengthy proboscis. Combat. Korkachans only fight when cornered, preferring to leave combat to the grunts of the Blood War. When threatened, they can make 2 claw attacks, 1d6 each, and 1 bite attack, 2d6 each, or make 2 attacks with their torture implements, 1d8 each. After they've studied an opponent for 3 rounds, they can also use their weapons to make 1 special attack, cause pain. If the attack hits, the victim must save versus spell at -6 or suffer a -4 penalty to all attack and damage rolls, a -2 penalty to armor class, and a movement rate reduction of 3. These effects last for 2d6 rounds. Korkachans can also cause disease as per the spell. If they successfully bite an opponent and hold on for 3 rounds, the victim can make a bend bars/lift gates roll to break free. They can transmit a disease to the victim that is fatal within 1 to 3 weeks of transmission. Alternatively, the Korkachan can inject a fluid that heals 1d12 points of damage. Both bites can be used 3 times a day, and a Korkachan can make no other attacks during the 3 rounds of transmission. Barbazu, Lesser Bazetsu. The Barbazu are elite shock troops. They are humanoid in appearance, with clawed hands and feet, a long tail, and a scaly skin. Combat. The Barbazu's primary attack is a wicked two-handed glaive that inflicts 2d6 damage, plus a further 2 points of bleeding damage per round until the wound is bound. Bleeding glaive wounds are cumulative. Alternatively, the Barbazu can attack with 2 claw attacks and its wiry beard. If both claws hit, the beard automatically hits for maximum damage, 8, and has a 25% chance to cause disease. Barbazu can use the following spell-like abilities once per round: affect normal fires, command, fear by touch, produce flame, and gate. Once per day, summoning either 2d10 Abishai with a 50% chance of success or 1d6 Barbazu with a 35% chance. Finally, Barbazu are subject to Battle Frenzy. They have a 10% cumulative chance each round of going berserk, which makes them immune to morale checks, doubles their number of attacks, provides a +2 bonus to hits and damage, and gives them a +3 penalty to AC. Eren Yes, Lesser Bazetsu. Unlike the gruesome cousins, Eren Yes are incredibly beautiful. They can appear as males or females of any race, their feathery wings the only indicators of their devilish origins. They use their good looks and charm to tempt mortals. Unlike other Bazetsu, Eren Yes frequently travel to the prime material plane unsummoned. Combat. Although they prefer to use their powers, Eren Yes can use any weapon with proficiency. They also carry ropes of entanglement for such situations. They can cause fear in any creature that looks at them. Victims must save versus rod, staff, or wand or flee in panic for 1d6 rounds. Additionally, Eren Yes can use the following spell-like abilities once per round: detect invisibility, locate object, polymorph self, produce flame, and gate. Once per day, either 1d8 Sprinagons with a 50% chance of success or 1d4 Barbazu with a 35% chance. And Eren Yes's most powerful ability is its charm power. The creature can look at any target within 60 feet, and the victim must save versus spell as if it were only one half of its current level. Failure means the victim becomes totally loyal to the Eren Yes and does anything to protect and obey it, even when it means the death of the victim or loved ones. An Eren Yes can only charm one person at a time, and the effect lasts until the Eren Yes ends it or the victim dies. Oceloth, Lesser Bazetsu. The Oceloths serve Bator as security police, a job they relish. Their bony forms are horrid and emaciated, and rather incongruously, they have large scorpion-like tails. Combat. Fearsome opponents who can see perfect in total darkness, Oceloths attack with 2 claws, 1d4, a bite, 1d8, and a tail strike, 3d4 damage, and the victim must save versus poison at -3 or lose 1d4 points of strength for 1d10 rounds. They can also generate fear in a 5-foot radius, causing opponents to save versus rod, staff, or wand, or flee in panic for 1d6 rounds. Ocelots have the following spell-like powers: fly, improved phantasmal force, invisibility, wall of ice, and gate. Once per day, either 1d100 Nuparibos with a 50% chance of success or 1d2 Ocelots with a 35% chance. Hamatula, Lesser Bazitsu. Hamatula are primarily guardian troops used to patrol the third and fourth layers of hell. Covered with barbs from head to tail, Hamatula have unusually long claws on their hands and exceptionally keen eyes. Combat. Hamatula attack with 2 claws, 2d4 each, and 1 bite, 3d4. And the first time they strike an opponent, the defender must save versus rod, staff, or wand, or flee in panic for 1d6 rounds. If both claw attacks hit, the defender takes an additional 2d4 points of impaling damage from a deadly hug attack. The victim is pinned, taking 2d4 points of damage per round until released. Hamatula that take over 15 points of damage in round will release their prey. Victims with a strength of 16 or greater can break free with a successful strength check. Hamatula can use the following spell-like powers: affect normal fires, hold person, produce flame, pyrotechnics, and gate. Either 2d6 Abishai with a 50% chance of success, or 1d4 Hamatula with a 35% chance. Aminzu, Greater Bazetsu. Aminzu primarily dwell on Stygia, the fifth layer, guarding the river Styx with armies of Abishai and Erinyes. They are short and ugly, with leathery wings and a mouthful of jagged teeth. Combat. The attack of a Aminzu is a channeling of harmful energy that inflicts 2d4 damage. It bypasses ordinary armor, so the Aminzu need only to hit AC 10, though the magical pluses of armor and protective devices do count, and devices that bestow a base AC function as well. Those hit by the attack must also save versus spell or forget one whole day of memory. Finally, the Aminzu can use the following additional spell-like abilities: once per round, Fireball 3 times a day, Imprisonment once per day, and Gate once per day, summoning either 2d10 Abishai with a 50% chance of success or 1d8 Erinyes with a 30% chance. Kornagon, Greater Bazetsu. Kornagons are the elite defense forces of Hell. They look like classic devils, scaly, winged, and barbed-tailed. They favor barbed whips in combat. Combat. Kornagons can attack with 2 claws, 1d4 each, a bite, 1d4 plus 1, and a tail strike, 1d3 damage plus an additional 1 HP of bleeding damage until treated. Or they can use a barbed whip, 1d6 plus 6 damage, and a save versus paralyzation, or be stunned 1d4 rounds, in conjunction with a tail strike. All Kornagons radiate a fear aura in a 5-foot radius, save versus rod, staff, or wand, or flee in terror for 1d6 rounds, and regenerate 2 hit points per round. Additionally, they can use the following spell-like abilities once per round: Detect Magic, ESP, Lightning Bolt 3 times per day, Produce Flame, Pyrotechnics, and Wall of Fire once per day. They can also attempt to gate in the following: 2d6 Barbazu 50% chance once per day, 2d8 Abishai 35% chance once per day, and 1d3 additional Kornagons 20% chance once per day. Mazakims, Lesser Bazetsu. Mazakims are the tortured souls of devils in hell sent to the prime material plane to cause pain and suffering among mortals. They are invisible to the naked eye and inceptional as well. Like ethereal creatures, they can travel through solid objects without hindrance. In their inceptional state, they cannot interact with the prime material plane. However, they can possess mortals and cause them to sicken and, in some cases, die. Those able to see invisible objects through the Detect Invisibility spell, for instance, are confronted by a bestial looking devil with scales, claws, and wings. This appearance, though frightening, is only an affectation. Mizakims actually have little power while instubational. Combat. While instubational, Mizakims can neither make attacks nor be attacked. They can, however, use the following magical abilities each 3 times per day: affect normal fires, audible glamour, cantrip, and ventriloquism. They use these abilities to spook mortals and engender an atmosphere of fear. Note, however, that Mizakims lack the ordinary spell-like abilities and resistances of normal Bazitsu. These are linked to their physical bodies and are not available to them while on the prime material. The primary power of Mezakims is possession. This power is used for a variety of purposes. Sometimes Mezakims are instructed to possess a particular mortal to find out information. They have also been known to start epidemics, sow confusion, or kill their hosts. Once the target has been chosen, the Mezakims can attempt possession. This takes 1 round, and the victim must make a save versus spell with a -1 penalty for each hit die of the Mezakim. Those that fail are possessed. Should the Mezakim fail to possess the target, it cannot make another attempt for a full 24 hours. Also, the target will realize that something strange has just happened. This feeling manifests as a sudden chill or sense of foreboding. Once a Mezakim has successfully possessed a mortal, he is in control of the victim's body entirely. The Mizakim has no access to the memories or abilities of the victim, but can speak and interact normally. The victim's consciousness is aware, but cannot act other than try to oust the devil using willpower alone. The victim is allowed to make a further saving throw each day, modified by his magical defense, wisdom, adjustment. Success indicates the devil was forced out, while failure means he remains in place. While controlling the victim, the Mizakim can levitate at will. Additionally, he increases the host's strength by 2 to a maximum of 19. Once per turn, he can spit needles covered with poisonous bile at any opponent within 10 feet. These needles inflict 1d8 damage, and the target must save versus poison or take an additional 1d6 plus 1 damage from the bile. Other than this special attack, the Mizakim is limited to 1 attack per round using whatever weapons are handy. The presence of the Mizakim can corrupt the body of the host, and at any point of the possession, the Mizakim can cause disease on the victim. The devil chooses the potency of the disease as per the spell. There is also a 25% chance that the disease is contagious. Mizakims are difficult to dislodge once in possession of a host. They can be driven out by causing their hit points in damage to the host, but this often kills the victim and is a dangerous proposition at best. The exception is holy water, which does damage only to the Mizakim. The best way to oust the Mizakim is through the spell Exorcise, a cleric spell introduced in Chapter 3. Habitat/Society. Mizakims are the souls of devils whose bodies remain in hell. For offenses against one of the lords or other Bazetsu nobles, they have been sentenced to spend time on the prime material plane. Their physical bodies are restrained within magical circles and then tortured for 666 nights. When the ritual is complete, the souls of the devils are only too ready to flee the scarred and burned husks of their bodies. The magic of the ritual propels them to the prime material plane, where they remain as exceptional spirits until their sentence is complete. The pain of their torture remains, even though their bodies are left behind. This spiritual agony only apes when they cause suffering to the mortals of the prime material. The Mizakim are thus thoroughly motivated to possess mortals and wreak havoc in their society. Ecology. The Mizakim are not rarely a race as such. They come from the ranks of the Bazetsu and can represent any of the lesser devils. They are commonly the souls of Abishai, Barbazu, and Hamatula. The Mizakim have no society. They usually operate individually, unless ordered otherwise. Agents of Asmodeus and other Batezu on the prime material can command their services and often use them for particular missions. In general, though, the Mizakims choose their victims quickly and randomly, their only interest being the lessening of the pain of their souls. Gelugon, Greater Bazetsu. Gelugons are huge insectoid devils with deadly pincers and a spiked tail. They live in frigid Kenya, the 8th layer of hell, and guard the only gate to the 9th layer. Combat. Extremely strong, Gelugons attack with 2 claws, 1d4 plus 4 each, pincers, 2d4 plus 4, and a tail strike, 3d4 plus 4. And victims must save versus paralyzation or be paralyzed by numbing cold for 1d6 rounds. Each attack can be directed against a separate opponent. 1 in 4 Gelugons uses a large spear in the place of the claw attacks. The spear inflicts 2d6 plus 4 damage, and victims must save versus paralyzation or be slowed by cold for 2d4 rounds. Gelugons see perfectly in total darkness, regenerate 2 hit points a round, and radiate fear in a 10-foot radius, save versus rod, staff, or wand, or flee in panic for 1d6 rounds. Additionally, they can use the following spell-like abilities: Detect Invisibility, Always Active, Fly, Polymorph Self, and Wall of Ice. They can attempt to gate in 2d6 Barbazu, 50% chance once per day, 2d4 Ocelots, 35 chance once per day, and 1d2 Gelugons, 20% chance once per day. Thank you for listening to this audiobook of Guide to Hell 2nd Edition, Chapters 6 and the Appendix. I hope you enjoyed and have a great day. Best regards, Reed.